Friends, Fever fans, welcome back to another Fever Replay podcast. Brought to you by, once again, the love of the game. When you want it done right, or, just plain done it all, do it for the love of the game. We are back. We are excited. It was a good week of Fever basketball. I am Chris Ord, and once again, we are joined by my lovely and talented co-host, Keisha Gallagher. Say hi, Keisha.
Hello, and happy Father's Day.
I'm a father. Thank you. How nice. What a nice young woman. All right. Well, this was a great week of basketball, period. There were a lot of fantastic games. But you and I were at a game yesterday, weren't we, Keisha?
We sure were, Chris. And what a game. What a game.
What a game.
A true gift.
It was. It was actually a gift. My wife and Keisha talked throughout the week, and they decided, hey, why don't we go for Father's Day to that Fever game that's coming up? And just so you know, at the time, Caitlin Clark had not been announced to be coming back. And so we got those tickets on the cheap because the next day they announced it. And then we ended up at a Saturday game watching us take on the champs. And spoiler alert, we beat them. And the pod.
We beat them.
And the pod.
And before my wife hears this and then tries to say that I took credit for something I did not do, mainly our wives made those plans happen. I was supportive, and I participated, but they made this dream a reality. So
you heard it here first, folks. It was Keisha and Keisha alone who came up with this plan. We're putting it on paper.
This is why people don't trust the news anymore,
Yeah, so I thought we'd start, since we both got to go to this live game. For those of you who haven't been, or it's been a little while, just kind of talking about our game day of experience of going to a live Fever game. Me and my family have been to a few of them. It's always fantastic. If you want to know the demographic there's a lot of young women there, which is really, really, really cool. It takes a moment to hit you as you're there. If you've been to sports events, this energy is very similar. Everything's very exciting. There's a lot going on. It's loud. But then at some point, it just kind of hits you. You're like, these aren't the normal faces that I would see at a sports game. And it kind of for me, I have a daughter. It really does kind of get me every once in a while when I look around. I'm like, this is like a packed house. These are people that are very excited to be here, that are super pumped. And they're not the same people that you normally see at live sporting events. And it's very exciting. It makes me feel good.
Yeah, I feel like the demographic of who's participating in watching women's sports, because everyone loves women's sports. Everyone loves watching women's sports. I think it's really imploded.
Keisha, just for those of you who aren't watching the video feed, because we don't have one, was holding up to the camera her shirt that says everyone watches women's sports. That was a gag, completely visual. Anyway, go on.
That was a visual gag just for those recording and my two dogs, but Sometimes I have to commit to the bit, but yeah, I think that it is really exciting, and it is a true gift to see the audience for the WNBA grow, and to see it so skewed to a younger age group. I do love to see that.
Yeah, younger and feminine age group too. It's just amazing, and there was one point. I'm usually locked into the game. I like to cheer, I like to shout, but sometimes it'll take a couple rounds of defense or let's go Fever, let's go, before I join in. And one of those times I was sitting there watching, and then the defense started chanting. But the first few times I heard it, normally in a crowd it sounds like defense. The first two rounds was defense. I was like, oh my gosh, it's just like a bunch of girls that were all locked in. They caught the defense chant, but for anyone else, it was adorable. and I loved it, and very heartwarming. Like that's just I know I've just said this like 3 times, but it's just not something you're used to, and I think it's a really cool sight and something you should experience if you get the chance to go to a sold-out women's basketball game with really excited people there. It's fantastic. Another cool thing at the game, I mean, it's just a good time. They do a really good job of welcoming you. The whole place is all decked out. If you want to go, like, get there early to go to the store, if you get there right before the game or right after, it is almost a no-go. It's a very long line. So if you want to go to the store, either go the day before a game because they're open in between games, or go very early if you're trying to get into that store because that's tough. There's also a couple smaller stores that are like on the upper levels. Just a little thing in case you're looking to get some gear while you're there. But the store does have some really nice stuff in there.
Well, for the experience of being in an arena like that, as someone who has been to a few different basketball venues, it is loud the entire time. Like, not only is there chanting happening, but people are locked in, and it is quite overwhelming. The energy is constant. I can't imagine what it would be like to play as an opponent in that kind of volume. Like, I've seen and heard a lot of noise in the Hawkeye Arena for a lot of Iowa games, but the Fever really do bring it. So seeing that and experiencing that versus hearing it, if you happen to see the televised game, it is quite different and intense.
Yeah, and like me and my family, since we moved here about 3 years ago, we've been to a number of both Pacers and Fever games, and they're both fantastic, really well-run place. Stadium's awesome. But, and I'm not saying now, because right now the excitement around the Pacers is pretty huge. But like last year, for sure, the difference was 100% between the Pacers and the Fever. Meaning, like, the Pacers was fun. They did a great job. They put on a good show. It was a great product out there on the court. But the excitement was not the same. It was not like, you know, every time a shot was made, every time they got the ball, every time they got a stop, crazy cheering, you know, excitement, the crowd being completely locked in. That was not the experience at those Pacer games. But I've never been to a Fever game where that wasn't the case. So
yeah,
it's pretty special and pretty cool. And not something that has been overhyped. It is correctly hyped. If you're going to go, you're going to have a good time. So I suggest it. Anyway, what we're going to do, we got 2 games we're talking about. We're going to talk about both the Atlanta Dream, but we figured let's talk about the Liberty, because that was a fantastic game of basketball.
I just got to jump right in and kind of, I normally would like to try to kind of go in some sort of order, but I can't help myself with the series of threes that went in. Because we were there live watching the game. So the first 3 went in. I looked at Chelsea and I went, wow, well, she's back and she's making threes. And then she made the second 3 in a row.
From further away.
Chelsea. Yeah, from further away. And I was like, well, not only is she back and she's making threes, but the depth is locked in. And then she made the third 3 in a row. And I said, uh-oh, she's back.
she's like all the way back. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was extremely exciting.
Exciting, yeah.
It was exciting to be there. I feel like we always go in the balcony. We're not made of money out here. And I could literally see the fire in her eyes. It was a chippy game, I think, to start with. The team, the Fever came out, I think, with like a healthy, almost disrespect for the Liberty. In that, like, they weren't going to be afraid. They weren't going to be like, hey, you've beat us. Hey, you've never lost this year. It was kind of like you can tell they came out and they were like, our plan here is to win tonight. That's our plan. We got our full team back. We know who we are, and we're ready to beat you. That's what it felt like to me. And especially during those moments, it seemed like Caitlin was starting to feel herself. She'd made a couple baskets. She'd hit a 3 or 2. And she was, for whatever reason, just like, I really want to mess these girls up right now. Like, you could tell. Like, and if you go back and watch those 3 threes, especially the second 2, she was, like, making a point. She was like, I can shoot this from anywhere. And I can score on you whenever I want. But that's what I saw. It was kind of crazy. She was, like, spitting fire.
Well, I think yeah, she was. I personally saw a lot of growth from when she was taking that time off from the injury. Her response to how the Fever originally played against New York, I think, was really mature, and I could see that she's been looking at film and she's been working on some areas that she was struggling with when she was being guarded so aggressively full
Mm-hmm.
court. So that was her response to that aggressiveness that Cloud brings was phenomenal. It paid off. Was in foul trouble. Caitlin was, I mean, couldn't stop scoring. So I saw that really caught my attention right away. And there was a point where it just looked like New York was completely defeated. They weren't even playing badly, but when you're making every three you take, you just can't recover from that. And it has to be noted that New York, though still a very strong team, is kind of experiencing what the Fever had experienced recently
Mm-hmm.
with some changes in roster, with Jonquel being out, Fibic is gonna be gone for that Euro tournament, the Euro League. They're looking at a different roster that they normally don't play with, and I think they really struggled to figure out how to respond to Stewie not having her best performance, really struggling to get open. It was a great game though, and the 3-point shooting was off the charts.
Yeah, I think that was the stark difference. Like, we all knew, and we've talked about this many times the past couple weeks. Okay, like, the are missing their number one player. Like, that is 100% true. The Fever is also missing, like, the engine of their offense, like the main distributor, the one that's supposed to help everybody to thrive. But, like, it was so clear the difference in spacing when Caitlin Clark is on the floor. Like, the game she plays seems completely focused on creating 3-point shot opportunities. Not that that's all she does, but what she does, the like end result is open threes. Like driving to the paint, throwing passes into people that are cutting, her being able to hit something from anywhere on the court makes the defense have to react in a way that is going to get you an open three if you keep moving the ball around. And like that was something we've talked about on the pod here the last couple of weeks is we've been having a lot of trouble getting open threes. Like they've been heavily contested. There'd be only maybe less than a handful of open threes taken throughout each game, where last night, not the case. They were open,
No.
and then turns out if you're open, you're going to hit some of those. You're not just going to hit
Well,
some of those. You're going to hit more of those than the franchise has ever hit in one night.
when your opponent starts to implode, how do you respond? Caitlin Clark said 7 threes alone by halfway through by the third quarter, and then 17 3-pointers made is insane.
It's crazy.
48% shooting from the field, 48%, almost 47% shooting from behind the arc. And what do you do when the team that you're playing not only has someone who's making 7 threes by the third, but the rest of the team is making threes? They took Clark out, Colson hits a 3, and then on the next possession, Dantas hits a 3. It was a massacre. It really was.
What's crazy is that the Liberty were still in it, too. That was kind of the crazy thing is it really in the first half started to become a very chippy game. There were some odd calls. I'll say terrible calls. There are some terrible. The series where Caitlin Clark gets a technical the series of events was absolutely horrible. Like there's a clear no call, and then they challenge it, and I know that you can't challenge a no call, so it was kind of like, I don't know, I guess they were just begging the refs to like see the error of their ways, because like
Right.
basically all they were allowed to do was decide who got the ball, and so then
Right.
nothing happened, and then Caitlin's losing it, which honestly of all of the times to get a technical, if you felt like your teammate who has just come back from an injury, has been injured twice, it was kind of a dangerous play. She's up in the air. She gets fouled. Not like it's not the worst foul ever, but then it's not even called.
Yeah.
I don't feel that bad about her getting that tech, especially watching it
I
back
feel
after the live one. In the live one, I was like, oh, Caitlin's going to Caitlin. But then I watched it later, and I was like, you know what? I get it. Someone's got to speak up.
it was brewing. She was ready to get it from having been on the bench the last few games. At any opportunity to go off, she was ready to go off. So I'm not surprised at all, especially watching it over. I could see the moment in her eyes when she was like, well, the tea is coming now. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it was a frustrating officiating spectacular for sure. I don't know what they were doing.
And that caused some definite chippiness between the teams, which was honestly kind of fun to watch. Like, Sabrina would not let the Fever just take the game away. Like, she would not let them. Whenever it started happening, she would just step up in, whether she was driving to the paint, whether she was dishing it out or hitting threes. She was just very businesslike, like, sorry, I'm here. I'm very good at basketball, too. And you guys aren't going to pull away.
Here's 34 points to prove it on top of my incredible assists and rebounding despite the beatdown they were getting. But yeah, I mean, it just when you score 34 points as an individual and it's not enough, that hurts. That's got to hurt.
One thing I noticed, like, speaking of like seeing the difference between the live and then watching it back later, I didn't know this in the live game that Caitlin was clearly fatigued kind of throughout the whole game.
Oh, yeah.
You never see Caitlin wave over to the sideline like, I need a break. But saw it several times throughout this game. And it seemed like she had a stitch in her chest like most of the night. Like she kind of kept grabbing it, like trying to catch her breath. And then at the half, she like could barely lift her arms to give high fives. Everyone's looking at her like, yeah. And she's like, yeah, and like kind of like barely lift her hands out there, which was crazy. I didn't know she was that tired watching her live. I was like, oh, she's just on fire. This is fantastic. She hasn't missed a beat. But then when you could see it in high def from close up, it was like, oh, man, she's still gassed. This is crazy that she was able to perform that well and not being in her normal game shape.
And I think that was sort of a focus, is to kind of prove a point against this dynasty team that is on a crazy, possible record-breaking pace of
it's
winning.
Their best start.
Yeah, it's their best. It's also one of their best teams for the Liberty.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think they definitely had a chip on their shoulder, especially from the last game with the kind of controversial no call, maybe no call. We only got one weird angle of the Cloud and Clark.
Yeah, and you got to think Caitlin, that was her last game. So everyone else has been living their life, doing other games, playing other people, winning, losing. Not Caitlin.
No, just fixating on one
this
thing.
Was the last game she played. She didn't get to play any basketball, and she had another shot at it. And she was like, I don't care. Maybe I'm not 100%, but I'm giving you absolutely everything I have. How's that sound? Maybe my best half of my professional career. That's all.
How does that sound? Yeah, no, they played. That was just really great basketball, and the team really stepped up. The Fever looked really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, speaking of the team, there were a lot of great plays from the rest of the team. You can tell they do thrive. Maybe not Howard necessarily, although she just kind of missed a couple little bunnies. But everybody does thrive with CC out there. One of my favorite plays that I've seen this year happened where it was a behind the back from Caitlin at the nail to AB. And then AB grabs it and kind of spins and then dishes it to Hull, who's wide open for a three, and drains it. And to me, that was like really huge. When you watch the best teams, they seem to always be like a step ahead, to be reading things like a little faster. And like when somebody does something awesome, like a behind the back, totally fakes out their coverage, then that other person isn't like caught up in the moment. They're like ready to go. They knew that pass was coming, and they know that they maybe need to dish it out also. And I felt like I saw that maturity in that moment. Like AB just received this awesome pass. She was near the basket. She could have just tried to go for like a contested layup. But she instantly realizes, like, wait, I have Stewie on me. Stewie wasn't supposed to be on me, and without even missing a beat, it was like within half a second she tosses it out to Hall,
Yeah.
who is sitting there waiting, ready, knowing that she's about to get this three, drains it. To me, that was like a lot of maturity between those three to be like, not every team is capable of going like boom, boom, boom like that. And like, to me, looked like a sign that like, okay, we're at a different level than we used to be.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing that happen, that behind the back to the almost like spin pass, and thought the chemistry is really evolving between the different rosters that we're seeing. And the one, I think, real benefit of having had gone without Clark is that these new little connections were forced to kind of mature and develop a little bit quicker. So I think the clear vision that Boston had, knowing that Lexi was in the corner, that anticipation, that anticipatory chemistry and basketball intelligence, I think the Fever are in a new era of team building, and they're doing it while they're winning, and they're doing it in real time. I think, yeah, I mean, one thing that I really focused on when it came to this game was what was the big turning point for the Fever, and there was a period in the third quarter where Kelsey was doing Kelsey Mitchell things, cutting through and creating this layup lane that didn't exist, and she scored a basket. And after that, they went on this crazy run where everyone just was scoring in New York, even if they had a response at some point. I feel the Fever just never took their foot off the gas after that. But as incredible as Caitlin was, I really feel like the true spark that led to finishing this game off on a positive was Kelsey Mitchell.
No, absolutely I do, especially because CC really started the third quarter pretty slow. I don't think she had a basket in the first half of that quarter. I think that it was catching up to her. She had the best half of her life while not being 100%. She was tired coming out of that. And I think the rest of the team was like, hey, no worries, fam. Like, we saw what you're putting down, and we can score until you're ready to come back. I feel like, once again, she's just the perfect complement to what Caitlin Clark does. And it's not even compliment in the fact that she does things Caitlin doesn't do. Like, their strengths fully complement each other. They both hit threes. How are you going to guard that? They can both drive. It's a different even looking drive, though, too. Like, man, she just blazes by defenders. If she is like full on sprinting when she hits the half court line, then you're not going to stop her. It almost doesn't matter who's in front of her. She's just
so
going to go.
fast.
And the whole stadium knows it. And it's like, sorry, she's about to get a layup. I don't know what you want to do about it.
No, I mean, I'd take a picture, ask her how she does it, what's her stretching routine, because I need to get on that level. It's just, she's so smart, and she really knows her team. She really understands her role, and she knows, I think that's the something that Caitlin Clark can really absorb from like a Natasha Howard, Dawana Bonner, Kelsey Mitchell, is just knowing when you have to step up and become the shooter, and when it's your turn now to facilitate. And I think Kelsey Mitchell's really, really good at that.
You almost never see Kelsey Mitchell overreach or like try and like go too hard in a moment that wasn't necessary or force something. I can't remember the last time I've seen it. She might miss, but it was a good call. Like, Kelsey is so trusted with the ball. And that's somebody you want to be second to Caitlin Clark, because she has no doubt in her mind when she dishes it to her that that's a good idea. She's like, this chick, she's going to do something good when I pass it to her. It's not a problem. I felt like our counterattack was off the charts. We really put the game away with our defense. I think in the end of the third, really the fourth, Sabrina started making it a much closer game than it really should have been, just on her own. But in the third, we had this series of just like not letting them score, and then scoring on our own side in like 2 to 3 dribbles, and then going back and getting another stop, another 2 to 3 dribbles in a basket, going back like, a full 24 seconds. And that's got to be demoralizing when you're on the court to be like, wow, we're playing on offense a lot, and it doesn't seem to be getting us any points.
I mean, the statistic of being 48% behind the three is bonkers.
As a team.
It's crazy. As a team.
As a team. And that's what it looked like, too. It looked like that. And it felt like that. Like, oh, we're just going to make those today. And that's fine. All right. It was fantastic. It was very fun. Let's just take a moment to eat our vegetables here and talk about the Atlanta Dream, who beat us this week. We don't have to delve too into it. I think we know, and everyone knows, we didn't have Caitlin Clark, and we also didn't have Cunningham, who is a big part of our team. And that's been a struggle for us. We've faced the Dream a couple times. They've always played us really well. They're honestly turning out to be a pretty darn good team. And we have trouble handling their size, especially without Caitlin on the court. I feel like that was really obvious. So we kind of know that information, but let's just talk about what it is that kind of caused us to lose, and maybe what kind of takeaway we can get from that game, even though knowing we were down some players.
Yeah, I think the Dream is just a really complex opponent because they have such a different type of style of basketball, and for the first time, well, for not necessarily the first time, but for the first time in a long time, Jordan Canada is back. So we're seeing a different roster and we're seeing a different style of play. When Jordan is driving, she is opening up Ryan Howard and Alicia Gray to not having to have that responsibility, and they can just post up and wait for their shot. So I think that was a little bit of a challenge, but mainly it was the third quarter. Mm-hmm. The third quarter was
where we scored 9 points. Is that the
where
quarter
we scored
you're
9 points? That would be the one. That was really where it just kind of fell to pieces, and there just was never a point after that where it seemed like anyone had any creativity, any real spark. It was almost like there was an acceptance of we're about to go down and we're going down bad. There just was no response to Alicia Gray. And Natasha Howard was working so hard against some of the biggest bigs. Aaliyah Boston it was just a struggle. It was a struggle for the entire team. That's what it felt like for me anyways.
Yeah, it felt like two struggles. The first half we were struggling and it was working. Like we were in that game. It was like, gosh, they have us outsized, whether both bigs are in or if it's just Griner or if it's just Jones. It was like, we really need to find a way to score other than being in the paint, which isn't a great place to be as a basketball team. And then the second half, it's like the struggle was not working. We were
allergic to the paint in that game.
I think that's part of it.
It was not a good place.
It's almost like in football how regardless of if you're able to get running yards, you need to be running or else you're not going to be able to pass. That's what it felt like. We just gave up on the paint because we're like, they're better than us in there. And while that's true, if everyone knows you're not going to the paint, you're going to have a lot of trouble getting shots off. And I think that's what we were seeing. And it's that lack of creation, too, that we didn't have because we didn't have Caitlin Clark. And, Sid Colson, I think, is a fantastic backup guard. Fantastic. I think she'll really be good. We saw that against the Liberty. The amount of creation she can do. She has some trouble scoring. That's not what she's paid to do, is to go out there and score. And I think we saw that versus the Dream, personally. What do you think we learned from this game?
I think that there were opportunities for someone else to step up and lead, and I think that was the lesson, was when we're struggling with these injuries, who's going to be that voice on the court. I just feel like there was no direction. And like there are times when the people you rely on, your Kelsey Mitchells, your Bostons, are not scoring at that high rate or struggling. Someone else has to realize they have to step up, and I feel like in this game specifically, that just was nobody.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. It's almost like the thing we learned is that we have to learn something.
Yeah.
Like there's a big question mark.
Yeah.
When we're in this situation, what are we going to do? Because hopefully Caitlin Clark doesn't get injured again for the rest of the year. You know, she's been a remarkably available player pretty much her entire career, going all the way back to high school. She's just not someone who gets injured. So hopefully that continues. But there's going to be nights where she's off. There's going to be nights where we need production somewhere else. And the question is, what do we do? And hopefully this film gives us something to work on, something to look at, something for the coaches to kind of, noodle about. We'll find out. Okay, but enough of that, because that was the past when we didn't have Caitlin, and she's back, and we're glorious. Before we talk about the upcoming games, we're going to take a quick break. Sometimes people get you down. Have you ever had a tough day at work where you're doing everything you can? You and your 2 other coworkers are making the calls that you feel like need to be made. And for whatever reason, the crowd that night hates you. Try technical fouls. Sometimes you're going to have a superstar getting in your face, yelling stuff, calling your mother names. Go ahead, whip out a technical foul. Do it. It'll make you feel better, and it really serves them right. Doesn't it? Are they making good points? Did you miss a call? Are you a bad person? It doesn't matter when you throw out a technical foul. Try it today. All right, Keisha. So here's what we got going on next week. We got 3 games. Tuesday, we are going against the Connecticut Sun, the team that we stole their coach and one of their stars. Thursday, the brand new team that we haven't seen and is new to the league, the Golden State Valkyrie. And then on Sunday, we're going against the Las Vegas Aces. Very exciting stuff. I think we're going to focus mostly on the Valkyrie and the Aces. We have seen the Suns. Also, the Suns don't seem to be putting up too much of a fight versus people, because of the newness, the lack of stars and a brand new coach. So anyway, go ahead, Keisha. Give us your scouting report.
Yeah, so for the Valkyries, this is going to be, I think, a very exciting game. We'll get to see Caitlin Clark and Kate Martin hopefully play against each other. But with the Valkyrie, they are, I want to say, they're even now. I think they're 5-5, and they've had some pretty surprising wins. They've had some unfortunate losses, but they're a unique team. They're pretty much made of some of the most talented, already active players in the league, and we will see Fag Benley for the first time since she left the Fever.
No, I'm sorry.
It's going to be tough because we know that talent. There also was a really interesting re-signing, I guess you could say, of Caitlin Chen being added back to the Valkyrie, which is awesome, as one of the new rookies. But this is a talented team. They have Kayla Thornton, who's going to be a struggle to guard against. She's fast, she's strong. Monique Billings, very strong, and Veronica Burton, who has been really on fire as of late. And that's just to name a few. They have a lot of depth and talent. One of the things that might be in our benefit is they do have a lot of players leaving for Europe for that league, which does eat up a lot of talent. But
do we
not going to necessarily be an easy
for
game.
The Europe tournament?
I do not believe we are losing anyone.
Great. Okay, go on then.
But that does, so that will change what the Valkyrie may look like. So that it's a little harder to predict what they're going to throw out because they have a different bench available to them. But they're young, they're fast. Even their more senior players are still pretty young, and they're hungry to win. So it should be an interesting game. And then the Aces, they have been struggling this season. think everyone kind of thought that they were going to come in and blaze, but they are also, I believe, at 5-5. And Asia Wilson has been out for the last week on concussion protocol. So,
Yeah, I saw
assuming Wilson is back, we are talking about maybe the best, if not the second best active player in the league. She is unguardable. Sorry to everyone, but I don't know who you put on Asia Wilson. She's just going to eat them up, and she's going to make them work hard. So Boston and Howard have a lot of hard work ahead of them there. Jackie Young is slowly starting to build up her range when it comes to her three-point shooting. Chelsea Gray has been really, really on fire, and Joel Lloyd finally is starting to drain. So there's a lot of guards who are fast, big shooters. Kia Stokes is also 6'3", Asia Wilson's 6'4". Kitley's healthy for the Aces for the first time since getting drafted. She's 6'6". It's a tall team, and they're all strong.
Okay. So what do you think? Are we going to win
I think it's
these?
going to be a battle.
Are we winning all 3 of these games this week? Is that what you're saying?
I think that we are going to be tired. So I'm hopeful that Caitlin is healthy and ready to also rest at some point, and that the rest of the Fever, having had those few games without her, know how to step up and allow her to not have to play a lot of minutes right now, because these next 3 games are going to be physical. They're going to want to front her. They're probably going to pick her up full court. They're going to challenge another guard to bring the ball up the court so that they can kind of shake the foundation of what the Fever do.
Interesting. I have heard in the past that when you come back from an injury that limited your ability to kind of work out and stay in game shape, it takes about 2 weeks before you're starting to feel good. So he clearly is able to perform, but we'll see how that fatigue catches up to her. Anyway, with that, it was wonderful to see you in person, Keisha, this week. Had fun. Like I said, everybody, if you haven't gone out to a Fever game, do check it out. It's phenomenal. We handed out a couple stickers, so hopefully we have a couple new fans this week. But anyway, hope you all have a fantastic week. Enjoy your life in between your Fever games, and we look forward to seeing you all real soon. Take care, guys.
Bye.